What's good, YouTube? In today's video, I'll be showing you all of my settings in Warzone as highly requested by everybody. The settings included are graphics settings, audio settings, mouse and keyboard settings, and interface settings. Let's start with keyboard and mouse settings. I use a sensitivity of 1.5, ADS sensitivity multiplier 0.85, and focus sensitivity is 0.85. I use an ADS sensitivity type relative, and the monitor distance coefficient is 1.78. This depends on your monitor resolution. If you have a 2K monitor, it's going to be different than my 1080p monitor. Everything else is pretty much default. As you can see, I put ADS sensitivity, transition timing instant. And yeah, everything else is pretty much the same in the mouse tab. For the keybinds, pretty much default. I changed the bit from Warzone 2. Next weapon is on 1 and 2. Weapon mount is on Z. Fire mode is on N. Melee is on E. Lethal equipment on G. And apply our armor plate for. Everything else is pretty much default, as you can see here. And I have a detonate C4 on B. For the gameplay tab, which is the most important one in these settings, you have crouch behavior for toggle, prone behavior to go to, automatic sprint. You use this because you're on mouse and key and you can just press shift to tactical sprint. While if you're on a controller, you should use automatic tactical sprint. Slide maintain sprint is of course on. Sprint tactical sprint behavior hold. Single tap sprint, close backpack on sprint on. Hold off. I have some settings turned off actually. Off, grounded mantle on, which is 3 times faster to mantle something than to have it off. You just take hours to mantle something, I don't know. Slide and dive activation is independent. Parachute automatic behavior off. Everything else default except for this. Armor plate behavior is apply all and not apply one. Fixed C4 detonation is 1 by 1. Let's see, go to movement advanced settings. This is all default basically. And combat advanced settings. This is all default as well. Everything else default. Moving on to graphics settings. You can copy this. If you're on a 1080p monitor, use 1080. If you have a higher refresh rate than this, use it higher. Everything else is pretty much default, nothing special. Let me see. I use NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency on plus boost, by the way. Yes. So for the quality tab, I use my 1080p monitor resolution. Upscaling, you can use Fidelity FX Cast for more sharpening. I use it on 100. It's more clearer. But if you have a low-end spec PC, I recommend using AMD FSR 3.0 and putting it on to balance or quality. But I have a good PC, so I use this. Everything else is pretty much low or like off. But let's go through it. This is off. VRAM scale target 50. This is a good option for low-end spec PCs. It says it on the right. I use it on. Text resolution is normal. You can use this on low or very low. It doesn't matter. Use this on high because it doesn't affect performance. Depth of field off. Detail quality level low. Particle resolution very low. Bullet impacts on. Persistent effects off. Shader quality low. Local texture streaming quality low. Low. Off, low. You can copy these settings. Off, low, off. For the view tab, I recommend everybody using on a 120 FOV or at least 110. You can see how much you can see more between 120 and 100, and even from 80 to 120. I use an ADS field of view affected, weapon field of view wide. Everything else doesn't matter. Except for these settings, you should use world motion blur off, weapon motion blur off, film grain off, and first person camera movement least. Everything else is default. Heading over to the audio settings. For the audio settings, I use Dolby Atmos or Dolby Access, and I have it on game mode, like game performance mode. But the in-game settings are PC speaker. This is the loudest footsteps there is. If you don't like how everything else is loud, like precision strikes, mortar strikes, you can use cinema or even home theater. Use your default headset. Speaker output is Windows default. This doesn't matter because my Dolby Atmos changes it. Master gain volume, you can change this. Don't change anything here. Copy these settings. You can put this even to 20, doesn't matter, but copy everything else here. Affects volumes on 100%, but change this to your liking, how much you want to hear or not hear. Voice chat on, this pretty much doesn't matter. Proximity chat off. Push to talk, default system device. Let me see. Mono audio off, 100%. Reduce tinnitus sound on. Word track as passenger off. Juggernaut music off. Modern Warfare hit marker sound effects. And mute game and minimize. I just don't want anything else. I don't want to hear anything else while I'm playing the game. That's pretty much for the audio settings. Let's go to the interface. Everything here is default except for minimap shape. Use a square so you can see more of the minimap. But the important tab here is the color customization. Everything here is default. Where I changed it up a bit, it doesn't matter. It's basically default anyway. But this is important here. This is personal preference. This one is important. Use filter 2 and use color filter target on both. So for the interface and world color intensity. Use it on 100% and you're good to go. Okay guys, now for the settings outside of the game, I will first be showing you some interface settings that you can download and it can be applied to your game. So this is Vibrance GUI. It basically works better than NVIDIA's digital Vibrance control because you can only affect one game. I'll show you later when I open NVIDIA. You download this and you can open it here and then select the game you can add. Then you can see from the game's opened. So I don't have Call of Duty open now, but if I open it, you can see it here and you can add it. After adding it, just double tap on it and you can change the vibrance level here. This is only for you, so if you're like recording something, it's gonna be the same as default because this only changes your monitor vibrance, okay? Then the next setting is Dolby Access. Like I said, I use for audio settings. This is, I think, like $18 or something like that. I'm not sure. It depends on your country. Like I said, I use game performance mode. You can dabble a bit here. Like you can use something else here. You can just try. It depends on your headset, honestly. But the most safe setting is game performance mode. I use this sometimes, and I use game performance mode. Now for the NVIDIA control settings, control panel settings. You're going to be in this tab, which is just image settings with preview. You want to check use the advanced 3D image settings. Then when you check that, you go into manage 3D settings. So this is the default tab for global settings. I want you to go to program settings and select Call of Duty here. If you don't see Call of Duty here, you can click add and add selected program from here from recently opened. I have it selected already and I'm using these settings right here. I use global setting, which is, like I said, basically everything is off. I'll show you here. This is all global settings. Low latency mode off. Actually, for the game, I have low latency mode on, but like for everything else, why would I have it on? You can just, I'm gonna scroll through this. You can stop the video and copy. You can now, you can check here if your refresh rate is the highest. Mine is 144. And here you can change your color settings. You can change brightness, contrast, and this is the digital vibrance I've been talking about. If I change this, my whole monitor and everything I'm viewing is changed to 100%. But if I have the program I showed you, Vibrance GUI, which is lovely, you don't have to, you're just changing the vibrance of the game, nothing else. Everything else is normal. No. I use aspect ratio here, performance scaling on display. I have two monitors. This is all default. Yeah. This is pretty much our default. That's it. That is basically it, guys. Hope I covered everything you needed. Some of these settings are, like I said, personal preferences, so be aware of that. For example, you won't play better if you use my mouse sensitivity. I'm just letting you know. And that pretty much covers everything. Tips and tricks video on how to rank up fast will be coming out soon. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.